Shalom everybody, and welcome to part 5 of our series on keeping the feast days. In this video, we're going to take a look at the week-long feast of Sukkot, which is followed immediately afterwards by Shemini Atzeret, which is Hebrew for the 8th day. For a whole week every fall, those of us who are Torah pursuant get to go camping for a week. It's wonderful when a bunch of like-minded believers can all come together in one big place and basically have a large family reunion for those of us who are scattered worldwide and in the Creator's family known as the people of Yisrael. We stay in tents, in campers, or build for ourselves temporary buildings or sukkahs, as they're known, as we're commanded to do. Sukkah is a Hebrew word which means a booth, a hut, a cottage, tent, tabernacle, or a temporary dwelling place. Here's the first mention of a sukkah in Scripture, as we can find in Genesis 33:17. And Jacob sent out to Sukkot and built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. This is why the name of that place is called Sukkot. And the descendants of Jacob, on their way out of Egypt when they were led by Moses, made Sukkot their first stop. And this is no coincidence. Exodus 12:37, and the children of Israel set out from Ramesses to Sukkot, about 600,000 men on foot, besides the little ones. Now when you think of all those men and all their wives and all their children and all their livestock just packing up and heading out of Egypt, that's a lot of people to stay in temporary dwellings. And the children of Israel dwelled or lived in these tents or sukkahs or temporary dwellings for the next 40 years. Even the temple of Yehovah, called the tabernacle, was a portable building, and everything was made to be portable with the curtains, the ark, and the wood pieces that all fit together with sockets and poles. It's all lined out in the Torah. It's fascinating how Elohim set it all up to be broken down and moved. Now, Sukkot is the week-long feast that we keep as remembrance of the children of Israel staying in temporary dwellings for those 40 years. And here's the Torah for it in Leviticus 23:34-43. Speak to the children of Israel, saying, on the 15th day of this 7th month is the festival of booths, or Sukkot, for 7 days to Yehovah. On the first day is a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. For 7 days you bring an offering made by fire to Yehovah. On the 8th day, or Shemini Atzeret, there shall be a set-apart gathering for you, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yehovah. It is a closing festival. You do no servile work. These are the appointed times of Yehovah, which you proclaim as set-apart gatherings, to bring an offering made by fire to Yehovah, a burnt offering and a grain offering, a slaughtering and drink offerings is commanded for every day, besides the Sabbaths of Yehovah, and besides your gifts, and besides all your vows, and besides all your voluntary offerings which you give to Yehovah. On the 15th day of the 7th month, when you gather in the fruit of the land, observe the festival of Yehovah for 7 days. On the first day is a rest, and on the 8th day a rest. And you shall take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of good trees, branches of palm trees, twigs of leafy trees, and willows of the stream, and shall rejoice before Yehovah your Elohim for 7 days. You shall observe it as a festival to Yehovah for 7 days in the year, a law forever in your generations. Observe it in the 7th month. Dwell in booths for 7 days. All who are native Israelites dwell in booths, so that your generations know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Yehovah, your Elohim. Now, of course, as we read that, we're hearing some things that we don't do anymore, like burnt offerings or grain offerings, animal slaughterings, or drink offerings, as we no longer have a temple to bring these things to, nor a priesthood to attend to that temple. Most of us are still in dispersion, and Elohim has us all on a level playing field, so to speak, as there's no way for us to do these things, according to the Torah that we just read, even if we lived in the physical land of Israel today. However, Sukkot is something we are all commanded to do by our Creator. Let's read in Numbers 15:15-16. One law is for you of the assembly and for the stranger who sojourns with you, a law forever throughout your generations. As you are, so is a stranger before Yehovah. One Torah and one right ruling is for you and for the stranger who sojourns with you. And every 7 years on Sukkot during the Shemitah year, we're also commanded to do this, as recorded in Deuteronomy 31:10-13. And Moses commanded them, saying, At the end of 7 years, at the appointed time, the year of release, at the festival of booths, when all Yisrael comes to appear before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which he chooses, read this Torah before all Yisrael in their hearing. Assemble the people, the men and the women and the little ones, and your sojourner who is within your gates, so that they hear and so that they learn to fear Yahweh your Elohim, and guard to do all the words of this Torah. And their children, who have not known it, should hear and learn to fear Yahweh your Elohim, as long as you live in the land you are passing over the Yarden to possess. Many thousands of years ago, before printing presses, the Torah had to be written out by hand. Obviously, it wasn't common like Bibles are today. We have a lot of them in our house. Most people have a few of them. So the people would all come together and assemble themselves to hear the Torah being read out loud. And this might be the only chance for some of these people to hear the Torah being read in its entirety. It was during the Shemitah. And the prophet Nehemiah wrote the following when they were repairing the walls in the city of Yerushalayim after it was in disrepair after the Yehudim had returned after their exile. In Nehemiah 8:14-18, And they found written in the Torah, which Yahweh had commanded by Moses, that the children of Israel should dwell in booths in the festival of the 7th month, and that they should announce and proclaim in all their cities and in Yerushalayim, saying, Go out to the mountain and bring olive branches, branches of oil trees, and myrtle branches, and palm branches, and branches of leafy trees, to make booths as it is written. So the people went out and brought them, and made themselves booths, each one on the roof of his house, and in their courtyards, and in the courtyards of the house of Elohim, and in the open space of the water gate, and in the open space of the gate of Ephraim. And the entire assembly of those who had come back from the captivity made booths, and sat under the booths, for since the days of Yeshua son of Nun until the day the children of Israel had not done so. And there was very great rejoicing. And day by day, from the first day until the last day, he read from the book of the Torah of Elohim. And they performed the festival 7 days. And on the 8th day there was an assembly according to the right ruling, which was Shemini Atzeret. This next verse we've already read is something to remember, as we all need to do this during Sukkot as well. Leviticus 23:40, And you shall take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of good trees, and branches of palm trees, twigs of leafy trees, and willows of the stream, and shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim for 7 days. That's an important part to remember for Sukkot. But now let's cover the 8th day, known as Shemini Atzeret. Shemini Atzeret means roughly to pause on the 8th day. Leviticus 23:36, For 7 days you bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. On the 8th day there shall be a set-apart gathering for you, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. It is a closing festival. You do no servile work. And we do this as Yahweh commanded. It is a requirement for his people. And we're told the following in Deuteronomy 30:1-3. And it shall be, when all of these words come upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and you shall bring them back to your heart among all the Gentiles where Yahweh your Elohim drives you, and shall turn back to Yahweh your Elohim and obey his voice according to all that I command you today, with all your heart and with all your being, you and your children. Then Yahweh your Elohim shall turn back your captivity and shall have compassion on you. He shall turn back and gather you from all the people where Yahweh your Elohim has scattered you. So, to recap what we are to do for Sukkot and Shemini Atzeret from Leviticus chapter 23. Speak to the children of Israel, saying, On the 15th day of the 7th month is the festival of Sukkot. So we know when it is. The 15th day of the 7th month. On the 15th day of the 7th month is the festival of Sukkot for 7 days to Yahweh. So we know how long Sukkot lasts. 7 days. On the first day is a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. So we know the first day is a Shabbat. It's a high Sabbath. We do no work. And you shall take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of good trees, branches of palm trees, twigs of leafy trees, and willows of the stream, and shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim for 7 days. So we know we are to rejoice before our Elohim with these types of branches. So we wave them in the air, and we praise his name, and we can also decorate our sukkahs with them. A lot of people do that. We've done that in the past. On the 8th day, or Shemini Atzeret, there shall be a set-apart gathering for you. It is a closing festival. You do no servile work. So we know the day after Sukkot ends is a closing festival called Shemini Atzeret. This day is also a high Sabbath, so we can't work on that day either. And you shall observe it as a festival to Yehovah for 7 days in the year, a law forever in your generations. So we know this wasn't temporary, but forever. Also from Deuteronomy 31:10. At the end of 7 years at the appointed time, the year of the Shemitah, at the festival of Sukkot, when all Yisrael comes to appear before Yehovah your Elohim in the place which he chooses, read this Torah before all Yisrael in their hearing. So if it's the Shemitah year when we're observing Sukkot, we need to remember to do that as well. And that's it. We also need to remember that this is a feast of Sukkot, so we need to feast during this week as well. So get those meals prepared before the high Sabbath and you should be okay. But speaking of the high Sabbath, I want to talk about this for a second because I've got questions from people regarding Sukkot that says, hey, I can't take the whole week off. I need to work. Well, we need to remember that the very first day of Sukkot, high Sabbath. And the last day, which is Shemini Atzeret, after the 7th day of Sukkot, high Sabbath. So that whole 8 days is bookended by Sabbaths. Now, you're probably going to have a weekly Sabbath in the middle there somewhere, unless it kind of coincides with one of the other high Sabbaths, which we've seen happen before. But you can work all the other days. The commandment is to dwell in the temporary dwelling for that whole week instead of staying in your house. So go to work when it's not a Sabbath, come home, eat in the temporary dwelling, sleep in the temporary dwelling, and then go about your business. So you don't have to take the whole week off. It's really great if you can. If you can take the whole week off and have fellowship with other people in Elohim's Torah, that's a beautiful thing. But it's only required that you rest on the Sabbath, okay? So I wanted to mention that. And I also wanted to talk about more and more people coming into truth about keeping Torah in the feast days. There's naturally more people who are wanting to gather with others during this time who desire to keep the feast as well. Social media, like Facebook, is good for finding others in your area who are keeping the feast. But remember that due to some calendar differences, you will notice people keeping feasts at slightly different dates. So keep that in mind. Not all of us are going to be all on the same page and keeping all the same dates, but we are all still learning. Well, we hope this video series brought some general understanding to those who are curious about the feast days or those who had questions about the Moedim that Elohim delivered to his people. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so yet. We sure appreciate everyone who has, and we like all the comments and questions. If you have any questions, please leave them below. Shalom to everyone who is Yisrael and scattered worldwide in the dispersion. Everybody be blessed, and have a wonderful day.